Episode 6, The Real Treasure Map of Thomas Beale opening the iron box. And a treasure no one wants to unlock. There are mysteries that do not exist to be solved. They exist to remind us that not everything should be uncovered. This is a story about a box, not a strange artifact, just a small, dull iron box, tightly locked, once left untouched for over 2 decades in the drawer of an old inn nestled in a forgotten mountain town, shrouded in mist and fallen leaves. No one knows exactly where the box came from. The only person who ever saw what was inside was an aging innkeeper named Robert, who received the box along with the cryptic request, "If I don't return in 10 years, open it." But not before then. The man who spoke those words, a stranger named Thomas Beale, disappeared after that winter. No trace, no message. No one ever saw him again. Only the box remained and the 3 sheets of paper inside surviving the years, like a dagger lodged in the curiosity of those who came after. It is said that in 1822, a plainly dressed yet dignified man with deep, unreadable eyes arrived to rent a room at a small inn in the eastern mountains. He spoke little, revealed nothing of his origins or destination, but what everyone remembered was this: he carried a heavy iron box, secured with a leather-wrapped chain. For days, he sat alone in the back garden writing in a notebook, or silently watching the gray sky above. Then, one morning, he handed the box to the innkeeper and uttered the phrase that would become legend: "Don't touch it. Wait 10 years. And just like that, the man was gone as if he had never existed, leaving behind the box and a lingering presence that clung to the mind of the man who remained. It took over 20 years after decades of silent waiting before the innkeeper finally opened the box. By the dim light of an oil lamp, he discovered 3 yellowed sheets of paper, densely packed with handwritten numbers, thousands of them, neatly arranged, yet completely meaningless at first glance. Each encoded sheet had a brief caption. The first cipher describes the location of the buried treasure. The second lists the contents in detail. The third names the individuals entitled to inherit the treasure. No one of that era could decipher them. No one could break the codes. But the second cipher, like the first crack in an ancient shell, eventually revealed something astounding. The first person to decode the second cipher didn't rely on political documents or constitutional texts. Instead, he found a connection between the numbers and an obscure painting hanging on the 3rd floor of the Keenwood Library, a historic archive of ancient philosophy and visual art. That painting, according to library records, was titled "The Inner Watchman," a faded oil piece depicting a blindfolded man standing before 3 stone doors, each marked with a symbol, a flame, a box, and a shadowy figure with no distinct shape. By mapping specific elements of the painting, the door order, the man's clothing, the colors used, the decoder realized each number matched a symbolic detail in the painting, which he then converted into letters. Slowly, the cipher yielded its message: total contents buried beneath the stone: 2,921 pounds of gold, 5,100 pounds of silver, 1,488 premium-grade gemstones, 9 solid gold statues of gods, each 60 centimeters tall, 3 Roman-style silver warrior figurines, 2 sandalwood chests containing unidentifiable rare gems. The final line warned: one chest should not be opened unless its purpose is fully understood. This sparked the unsettling theory that the treasure wasn't purely material, it may also contain something that does not belong to our world. The location of the treasure was never found. Because the first cipher, the map, remains unbroken, but the details revealed in the second cipher stunned historians, not just because of the wealth, but due to the items described. The ancient idols had no known match in any official archaeological record. Speculation bloomed. Perhaps Beale wasn't simply the finder of the treasure, but a guardian, tasked with hiding it. Perhaps these objects were rejected, remnants of a forbidden ancient empire, erased from recorded history. Or perhaps what was buried were the proofs of a truth the world deliberately forgot. A programmer once claimed to have built a model capable of decoding the first cipher. Before he could publish his findings, he vanished from his rented apartment. His laptop was wiped clean. The last message sent to a friend read, "It's not meant to be found." It's meant to stay hidden. Another man, a descendant of the innkeeper, told of a stranger who appeared in 1880, asking to see the box. He said very little, took a small piece of paper, and left. No one knows who he was. But after that visit, the family never spoke of the box again. In 2009, a library scholar accidentally discovered a hidden note sewn into the cloth lining of an old book spine. The book, titled The Art of Silent Travel, bore a handwritten letter confirmed to be in Beale's handwriting. I chose not to tell, because some truths, once spoken, will shake the very being of existence. If the treasure is found, use it to build something that cannot be burned. Memory, honesty, and the light of a truth no one wishes to face. Today, among the fog-covered mountains and mossy stones, whispers remain about a place one hidden behind 3 layers of cipher and the silence of a man with no known past. No one can prove the treasure is real. No one can prove it's a hoax. But there's one thing nearly everyone agrees on. Thomas Beale didn't write those ciphers for wealth. He wrote them as if to test whether humanity could bear the truth. If there's anything that makes that iron box more terrifying than any treasure in history, it is the 3 ciphers hidden inside. Not because they're complex, not because no one can break them, but because the closer one gets to understanding them, the more it feels like something is being violated, something that was never meant to be touched. For nearly 200 years, people have tried to crack the ciphers. The result? Only the second cipher has ever been deciphered, and the cost, some say, may have been greater than anyone ever imagined. 1. The first cipher, the burial cipher. First cipher, written in tight, slanted handwriting, filled with endless streams of numbers, is believed to describe the exact location where the treasure is buried. The lines of code stretch on without breaks, like a continuous current, as if Beale wasn't writing at all, but transmitting data in a language that doesn't belong to ordinary cognition. Some believe the numbers correspond to astronomical coordinates, to ancient Druidic ciphers, or even to Babylonian star charts. Others tried overlaying topographical maps of the eastern mountains, comparing elevation lines and stone creek beds. All attempts failed. A Finnish mathematics professor spent over 3 years developing an algorithm based on the emotional structure of language, a bizarre theory suggesting the cipher followed a model of emotional intuition, not logic. Just as he was close to detecting a repeating pattern, the main server at the Helsinki Research Center caught fire under unexplained circumstances. All data was lost. 2. The second cipher, the inventory, as previously told. This was the cipher that first cracked open the mystery, and what it revealed shook the foundations of historical understanding. The man who solved it was a scholar named Karan G. Ward. He spent nearly 20 years analyzing the code, before realizing the key lay in an old painting the inner watchman kept in the Keenwood Library. Every element in the painting, from the shadow beneath the figure's feet to the distance between the stone doors, corresponded to a letter. Using how light fell across the image and the physics of its source, Ward built a system of light position semantic mapping. He broke the cipher. The message did not merely list gold, silver, and gemstones. It described 9 golden statues of unknown origin resembling no deity from Rome, Greece, or Egypt. 3 silver warrior figurines, gripping slanted swords, standing in a guarding posture. 2 sealed chests, covered in wax and engraved with an eerie symbol, a circle divided into 3, with a closed eye at the center. The cipher included a warning: do not open the 3rd chest unless you have read the message beneath its lid. And do not expose the 9th statue to light unless you understand it. That sentence is what made people start to feel uneasy, that maybe this was not just a treasure. 3. The 3rd cipher, those who have the right to know, no one has broken it. But some researchers believe this cipher doesn't simply list names. It contains bloodline markers, roles, and possibly a final message from those who buried the treasure alongside Beale. A cryptographer in Belgium claimed he found rhythmic patterns in cipher 3 resembling ancient Middle Eastern musical scales, suggesting it might actually be a piece of music, where each note corresponds to a character. Before he could complete his research, he was struck by a rare condition that caused sudden memory loss. All his data vanished. The last audio file he left behind contained only a low, stone-like humming, and a phrase repeated again and again. Don't call their names. Don't let them live again. Was the treasure the property of an ancient kingdom, or the loot of ambitious gold hunters? The truth might lie deeper, farther, and darker than anyone imagined. Some ancient texts encrypted and locked in restricted libraries mention a nameless organization called the Fourth Gatekeepers, a group that believed in a metaphysical door between reality and what is yet to be shaped, marked by ancient symbols. They believe that when the world advances too fast, too blindly, forgetting its sacred origins, the door would open, and the true world would flood into ours. In a hidden interview from the 1980s, an anonymous member stated, "We're not hiding a treasure. We're protecting it from those who think they deserve it." It is believed that Thomas Beale was a repentant keeper, someone who once belonged to the organization, and then walked away, burying everything he knew to prevent the worst from coming to pass. In the quiet town of Whitehill, hidden beneath tall, aging poplar trees, stood a small library that few ever noticed. But there, tucked inside a worn copy of Byron's poetry, was something no one ever expected. A handwritten letter in dark brown ink, sewn into the inner spine of the book. It was discovered by Lydia Thorne, a young librarian who had opened the book only because the spine felt unusually thick. The letter bore no signature, but the ink, writing style, and aging of the paper matched Thomas Beale's known writings. Its contents read like a confession and, at the same time, a moral cipher leading to a truth far greater than gold. I no longer believe the light was meant to be hoarded. I once thought truth was a burden. Now, understand truth, when used wisely, is a torch. But remember, do not open the fourth door unless you're ready to fall. At the end of the letter was a sequence of circles, triangles, and spirals. Lydia photographed it and sent it to a center for symbolic linguistics. 3 weeks later, an expert confirmed it was a form of ancient astronomical calendar, aligning precisely with a solar eclipse in the year 1880. That year matches the account told by the innkeeper's descendant. That year, a stranger returned. He opened the box, then vanished forever. We traveled to visit Agatha Beale, believed to be a distant descendant of one of Beale's former companions. She lives in an abandoned watchtower clinging to a mountainside. No electricity, no signal. She did not deny the Beale bloodline but refused to call him ancestor. An ancestor leaves something behind. He left a wound. When we told her about the letter hidden in the book's spine, she stood silently for a moment, then moved to a concealed wall compartment. She retrieved an old glass vial, inside of which was a tarnished silver key and a small slip of paper. Do not open unless the moon shatters its reflection on the water and the wind carries the name of the dead. We didn't understand, but she sighed. It's their way of saying, during an eclipse, when the lake reflects the broken moon, the dead will point the way. If you find that lake, this key will open what's left. The theory began to solidify. Beale didn't just hide treasure, he buried a part of history that was never allowed to be recorded. In a closed-door symposium at the Institute for Ancient Languages, a senior scholar who asked not to be named shared this insight. Cipher 3, in my view, isn't a list of heirs. It's a list of those who were never meant to be remembered, names of individuals who once shaped the fate of the ancient world, but for reasons unknown were removed from time. Not killed, erased, as if they had never existed. Why? Because they knew something that, if ever revealed, would collapse our understanding of power itself. Following the trail of the moon shattered over water, we ventured into Blackwood Forest, where Lake Lyric lay nestled in mist and stone. That night, during the solar eclipse, the lake surface turned to glass. The shadowed moon fractured into shards of liquid silver. The wind rose aimless, whispering from every direction. We placed the silver key into a slot in the rocks, as described in the letter. A soft click echoed. A hidden wooden box sprang open. Inside was Thomas Beale's second letter. They were once my friends. I once sat beside them, listening to their visions of a future they would build. But then I saw, they didn't want to save humanity. They wanted to hide the truth so that humanity would stay obedient. I took everything, buried it, and I wrote the 3 ciphers not so it could be found, but as a test. Would anyone be brave enough to seek not the wealth but the reason? Beneath his signature was a final line, written in red ink. If you understand this, write the forgotten names. Don't let memory become myth. Let the old light return. No one can say for sure, but one unpublished detail found in a 1947 file from the Bureau of Historical Preservation, a document never made public, reveals something astonishing. In it, a man named N. Carver claimed he unearthed a large lead chest surrounded by stone tablets etched with unknown characters. Inside, there was no gold. Instead, a silver mask depicting a face with no eyes, resembling the statue described by Elijah. A scroll made of animal hide, encrypted in a way no expert has ever been able to decode. The file clearly states, "Item seized, and the witness instructed to remain silent for the sake of national cultural security." This raises a chilling question. If that was only a part of the treasure, where is the rest? And more importantly, did Thomas Beale deliberately design an incomplete map to protect something more important than wealth? Symbolist analyst Anne LaRocque proposed a compelling theory, the 7-level key. Beale didn't hide treasure. He hid the truth about how humanity chooses to remember and to forget. According to her, the 3 ciphers are just the first layer designed to bait the reader with material desire. But behind each layer lies a deeper level of awareness. Level 1, symbols to lure. Level 2, wealth to motivate. Level 3, identity to invoke loyalty. Level 4, legend to form collective memory. Level 5, time to scatter belief. Level 6, language to protect meaning. Level 7, choice to test the final seeker. And at the final level, there are no more ciphers, only one question. If you knew the truth, would you dare to keep it? An old photograph, found in the moldy archives of the ancient Sinton publishing house, reveals a previously undocumented figure, a man in a brown cloak, holding cipher 1, standing before 3 stone gates in the Blue Ridge region. The photo was taken on glass plate in 1903, over 80 years after Beale vanished. Strangely, the face in the photo closely resembles the sketch of Thomas Beale, and he doesn't appear much older. Experts concluded it's either an extraordinary coincidence, or Beale never left, or someone following his path became the gatekeeper guarding the treasure, not with weapons, but with meaning. Some pieces of history were not buried. They were erased, not by war, but by the choice to remain silent. Beale's final letter, faded ink, but lasting impact, may be a confession, or perhaps his final will. I once wanted someone to find it, to understand that truth, when dangerous enough, will never be rewritten in ink, but in memory. But if you are reading this, then perhaps you've already gone too far. The treasure still exists, but what's truly worth keeping isn't in the chest. It lies in how you tell this story to others. Among the mist-covered mountains, where Blue Ridge brushes the sky and time seems to slow, there may still be a place where jewels and golden statues sleep beneath the soil. But that treasure may never be meant for those who seek gold. It may be meant for those who dare to ask, why would a man choose not to return for something the world would kill to possess? Why were the ciphers designed to be unsolvable unless the reader first conquered their own greed? Some doors are not meant to be open. They exist only to ask, who will step through, carrying nothing? And some legends, like the story of Thomas Beale, are not meant to be finished, because sometimes it is precisely the incompleteness that becomes the eternal part of truth. When the story of Thomas Beale comes to a close, what we first feel isn't regret that no one ever found the treasure. It's the stillness that lingers after everything has been told. A silence that's not frightening, not urgent, not hollow, but the kind that feels like wind passing through the deep woods of Blue Ridge, a sound only those who know how to listen can truly hear. The treasure has not been found, perhaps it never will be, but after 200 years, what Beale left behind isn't within the ciphers. It lives in how people chose to live with the legend. A legend isn't just a fairy tale for children. A legend, when followed deep enough, is a mirror reflecting what we long to believe and what we fear to know. The story of Beale, of 3 unsolved ciphers, of a treasure that may or may not exist, is really a test of humanity. What would we do, faced with wealth that could change our lives, if we had to trade away trust to reach it? Would we keep going, even knowing the path ends with a question? And would we accept that sometimes truth is not meant for everyone, only for those humble enough not to need all the answers? Beale left behind a box, but that box was also a trap. A sweet trap for ambition, for conquest, for those who want to conquer everything. And yet, the deeper one goes, the more one begins to understand. The treasure was never in the ground. It was in the eyes of the one searching. Perhaps what Beale buried wasn't meant to be kept safe, but meant to force the future to remember the past in a different way. Memory, if not hidden in the right place, gets distorted. History, if not retold, gets reborn to suit the victors. Thomas Beale, a man of unknown origin, unknown age, unknown motive, may never have intended anyone to dig up that treasure. What he left behind was his final lesson. Don't let what is most precious be forgotten, simply because no one wrote it in the right language. Along the way, in retelling this legend, we met many strange souls. A man who nearly cracked the code then lost his memory. A man who touched the golden statue and now lives as if sound no longer exists. A librarian who found a letter sewn into a book's spine and chose not to seek fame, but quietly returned to the pages. They are people who will never appear in history books, but perhaps they are the very ones who kept history out of the hands of those who should never own it. They are a quiet reminder to us all. Not everyone who knows the secret should tell it. And sometimes, the most righteous act is silence. Not from fear, but from respect. Blue Ridge is still mist-covered each morning. The stones remain cold. The forest still whispers something in a language only the wind understands. There, if you stand long enough, still enough, you may sense something no map could ever reveal. Not a chest of gold, not a statue of silver, but the feeling that you are near something sacred, not made to be touched, but to make you look up and ask, what is it I'm really searching for? Thomas Beale never returned. 3 ciphers, only one ever solved. The treasure, if real, may have been moved, or may never have existed the way we imagined, but the legend lives on, because in the end, the one who tells the story is the one who guards the treasure. And as long as we keep retelling this story, as long as we place our hands upon these words and feel the dust of time still clinging to them, then what Beale wanted to preserve has never been lost. Some treasures aren't meant to be found. They exist so humanity never forgets its capacity to search for something greater than itself.